Yeah.
By the way, welcome everybody who's joining us. This is our weekly segment that we haven't titled, but it's kind of like a
Oh, I've
socialist.
titled it.
What is it?
I've titled it, A Libertarian and Socialist Walk into a Bar. This is part 3.
I fucking love that. This is part 3. Xander, I can go either one of those. So whatever's grabbing you, because
Let's
they're
do the
both
latter.
good.
Let's do the latter because I'm just like, I think other than expand the House, like we're in this like weird break democracy gerrymander, in every direction. We've got to solve that, and we've got to restore the House to be the House of the people. Other than that, the corporate capture, I would even say it's above that, the corporate and elite capture of our politicians on both sides of the equation, that I think was what ultimately led to Trump in a lot of ways, is like the visceral anger around that. I would love to hear, because you said in the past, you're not necessarily against Citizens United, like these things. I would love to hear, one, how do you rate that issue? Is that a top issue in your mind? And two, what are the acceptable ways you solve that issue?
So start the conversation, my friend. Explain to me exactly what you mean by corporate capture, corporate and elite capture. I have an idea, but drill down on that.
Everything from this is like, everything from where people get their money to run, where it comes from, and how it is not just the direct donations to the campaigns, but how these PACs are stood up and the money that flows into the PACs and the advantage that individuals that are kind of towing a corporate line or align themselves with corporate interest have in running for office, to the insane degree in which there are like lobbyists running around DC that are kind of like the paid friends of electeds that inform them on the issue. And I was astounded when I was running the think tank for a year there with Miles. I was amazed to see what didn't count as lobbying. Lobbying is actually something specific when you're talking about a bill. There's a bunch of just experts being friendly and having coffees and influencing electeds across the spectrum. So I think that how you get into office piece of the equation is more impactful than the influence your ideas piece of it. But all of it, I think all of it, just the way in which money can encapsulate our politicians and support them in both their governing and their elected ambitions.
Got it. Yeah. And by the way, once they're elected, lobbyists are all over the place. I remember my time in Congress, and every minute of every day they're grabbing at my sport coat. And you just need to learn how to deal with that and say no. But that is a problem. But I would just also remind you, lobbyist people lobbying their government for shit, that's as American as you can get. We can say that the lobbying enterprise is fucked up the way it's practiced, but people petitioning their government, right? So
we can even pull that apart. Let's pull apart. I'm not talking about a populist movement when a bunch of small dollar people get together and figure out how it is. Let's say we're specifically talking about the billions of dollars spent from corporations lobbying on behalf of their corporate agenda.
Agreed.
Just when we're talking about lobbying services. Yeah.
No, agreed. But let's also remember, probably one of the top 2 or 3 most powerful lobbying groups in the country are the teachers' unions. A legit role, they do their thing. They spend, they're every election cycle, they're in the top 5 in money spent to get their people elected. But let's go. It is interesting to get people elected. The money
Let's start there.
Spent.
Let's
start there. So, and my background is, again, I don't brag about this. I was very poor when I ran for Congress. When I got elected, I was the poorest member of Congress. Because of that, I had to spend an inordinate amount of time calling people up for $500 or $600 or $50. Wealthy people, the way the system's set up, didn't have to spend all their time doing that. They could just put a couple million into their campaign. My general thesis, Xander, is that I don't inherently believe money is a problem in politics. I don't believe money is a problem in campaigns. I believe the problem is transparency i.e., where that money's coming from, and the American people doing what they need to do as voters to find out where that money's coming from and then decide. Oh, I'm pissed off. Joe Walsh is so fucking pro gun, and some pro gun billionaire just gave him $100,000. Well, fuck,
Mhm.
I'm not going to vote for Joe Walsh. I believe that's how the system should work. I believe every time we've tried to limit how much money comes in, or and where that money comes from, another vehicle, another PAC, super PAC, another twist is opened up. So I don't think the problem's money. I think the problem's transparency. Start there, but you respond to that and then go to the undue corporate influence.
Well, I don't think that's correct, unsurprisingly. This is why I wanted to dive into it, right? Uh, I don't think that's correct in the fact that, like, we now know, especially in the era of the internet, like, the truth has a hard time catching up to lies. And something I struggle with in this conversation is, like, what do we if we got what do we lose? Like, what are we gaining by allowing individuals or entities to have a lot of influence over a race versus what do we lose? You know what I mean? I think, like, if we're saying, like, I personally, like, a reform I would love to see is you can't even get donations out of your district. Not only are donations capped, but also I'd love if New York, where was your race, Joe? Illinois?
Illinois
What was the
8th, the
eighth
Chicago
district?
suburbs.
I'd love if the only money that could even be raised for that race is from your neighbors and capped at some amount, right? It can't even be a New York billionaire giving you a capped amount because you're running in your district. It should be representative of those people. And I just wonder, what do you think and I agree, like 100%. Corruption always twists its way into these different forms so it can influence once again. But I think our job as a dynamic democracy, which I'd love for us to be, is to fly swaps reforms as they arise. What do you think we lose if we adopted that? Right. So we said, Joe, you can only get money from folks in your district. The most they can give you is $100. Or we adopt some other reform that allows, we do a matching fund thing. The most you can get is 400, but we match people under 100. Difference. What do we lose in that scenario?
Um, Let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
If you went down that road, could someone who's running for Congress in my district who is wealthy, could they give their own campaign as much as they wanted?
that's interesting, right? That's like the JD, like speaking of Illinois, JD Pritzker, right? JD Pritzker is a billionaire. Is it high or it's high, right? It's,
He's
it's a
the
risky pick.
wealthiest governor in the country by far. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good question. I would say, yeah. I would say, yeah, put limits on that too. I mean, look, there's already these barriers that favor the wealthy for running for office. You don't get paid when you're running, really. You don't get paid a lot for even being elected, right? And so you can spend time campaigning. When you're not campaigning, you can free yourself up and spend your own money for your own survival. So I think the wealthy already have enough advantages as it is with their campaign. It's a trickier question, but yeah, I would love to see not only every vote be relatively equal, but for the efforts in which you try to gain power as a candidate to be as equal as possible, and for you as almost a prerequisite to running, have to show that there's enough popularity, democratic popularity of your campaign out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's not going to be a satisfying answer to you in general, but to me,
That's okay. That's okay.
this,
We're just looking for the Venn diagram. That's all right.
yeah, this is a freedom issue. Like, I live in Oklahoma. Joe Walsh is running in Illinois. I fucking love what he stands for. I want to write him $1,000 check. I just believe anybody in America should have that freedom to contribute to any candidate. You're running for president. What do you limit who can give money to a president? I think it's a freedom issue. I think me running for office, I've got my own money. Well, it's a freedom issue. Why can't I spend my own money to try to get elected. And again, Xander, if my constituents have a problem with that, then doggone it, they shouldn't vote for me. We talk about transparency. Understand right now, as a candidate, I run for office every quarter. I have to put out an FEC report that shows how much money I raised and where it came from every quarter.
Mhm.
These are reports that the average American has no fucking clue about. They don't know how to read. They don't know how to go through and find. Well, that's bullshit. In my world, at the moment Xander Schultz writes me a check for $500,000 if I'm running for Senate, that should be made transparent that day. And it shouldn't be in some hidden FEC report. It should be out there for everybody in my district to be aware of that day, that some billionaire wrote me a check for $500,000, which they can't do because there are limits, but a super PAC was set up. I should know where every dollar in that super PAC's coming from. You don't have to do that right now. PACs, super PACs, the same way. So we don't have that right now. We have
And you and I
zero
would probably agree on
transparency.
the transparency thing for sure. I think we've already found out you and I are that's in there, right? It's not a one yes, no
But we don't ha-
transparency thing.
but,
But we're
but we
not
don't
here
ha-
on the
we
yeah.
don't have that now. And then the other thing, my other bias, Sander, is, and I'm not going to put this right. Fucking American people, get off of your fucking ass and get informed. Don't just sit on your ass. You've got two people run for Congress, two people run for the Senate. Find out who they are, find out who's giving them money, and you decide. So much of this is putting the onus on the American voter to stay informed and stay engaged. That's another one of my biases. But
Do you
I
feel
just
like
go ahead.
do you feel like though what we've learned with say Trump's success, right? If we were able to say, look, the average American voter is going to receive uniform information around this stuff. It's going to be interpreted in a certain way and understood a certain way, and then they're going to price that into how they vote. I think we've learned throughout this era that that's not functionally how people absorb both information and show up as voters. Right? We've learned the power that a candidate that's full of lies and supported by corporate interests that that candidate in power, the power that they can have to sway people's opinions or even drive distrust on that information. You could see someone like Trump saying, for instance, whatever that outlet that we create is for transparency, it's totally rigged. It's owned by, the swamp people. Like, you can't trust it. They're doing stuff they're hiding, whatever. Like we understood now the capacity that an everyday American. I'm not blaming them. I think Americans are having a hard time donkey paddling, keeping their head above water. I think there's a naivety to thinking that we're around the corner from that being dramatically different. That people
Well,
are going to be. Go ahead.
well, it's a really interesting point, Xander. We've always elected bad people. We've always elected bullshitters and liars. Trump is that on steroids. Okay, so what's the answer to we've always elected bad people? The American people have always easily been fooled by demagogues and bullshitters. But what's the answer to that? See, my answer would not be create some government, whatever, to try to make it harder for bullshitters and liars to run for office. A, I think that's impossible. B, I think that's not the role of government. How do you not elect bad people? The American people decide not to elect bad people.
Well,
Fire back at me.
let's take a step back because I think there's almost a fundamental question that I am operating as if it is a uh, objective truth, and maybe it's not. Right? Like going back to, I don't think donors from other districts should be able to invest in a district that's not theirs. I think in a democracy, we are trying to the extent we can. There's all types of freedoms there, and like we all want freedom and safety, which
And
are
by the way,
oftentimes at tension.
by the way,
Yeah.
Xander, if you could snap your fingers and make that happen, the only people who can contribute to a candidate must live in that candidate's district or state. Understand then you'd almost outlaw all PACs. and
Yeah,
or super PACs.
that's
So
okay.
teachers unions gone.
That's okay.
Anti-gun groups gone, because these lobbying groups get money from people all over the country, and then that group then puts money toward the candidates they want to support. So the teachers unions would be gone as not being
I
able
don't
to
know if
give
they'd
to
be
any
gone.
candidate
What they would
any.
probably have to do is organize their teachers in their locations, right? Like what they would have to do is not say, we're going to build this super unit that's going to pool money from across the country. We're going to say, we're a teachers union. We have in the 8th district in Illinois, we have 7,000 members. If we care about that race, our job is to ask our 7,000 members to contribute if they are so inclined, but we've got to sell them as individuals to contribute to this candidate because we believe it's good for us. So that certainly like the power of the heads of those unions is reduced and they more become community organizers, if you will, right? Like how community organizers send out their community. It's not, they don't have member fees and they're not redirecting it, right?
They would no longer they'd no longer be national PACs. Every
Yeah,
PAC, in
they're
essence,
the
would have to be a
organizer of a
local
national
PAC.
network. Yeah, exactly.
That's
Or just organizer of a national network. Defiance to a certain degree is an organizer of a national network. Like we just had a call where we said a group we started, Fight Against Federal Overreach, FAFO, which is a network of district attorneys across the country that are prosecuting ICE agents for state
yeah.
crime. Trump, so Trump can't.
But
What?
no NRA, no anti-gun groups, no national NRAs, and no national anti-gun groups. Everything would have to be local.
They'd have to be. Yeah. Well, they don't have to be local. I'm a part of. Confusingly, I'm part of the Socialist Rifle Association and the National Rifle Association because I picked up shooting this year so I could meet more Republicans and have relationships like this so I could understand it more. I think it can still exist nationally.
But
They're just their just relationship with their members fundamentally changed. So let me go back to
go.
this broader point. I think in a democracy, what we want is each representative being a true embodiment of the will of the people that are within their um, area, right? If you're it's a mayor of a city, it's your city. If you're running for Congress, it's your district. You know, if you're, it's a sense, it's your state. But we want to have an honest and as close as we can fair race between those people, so their ideas are circulated with some amount of equity, and the fundraising is can be done with some amount of equity so we can get an earnest representative from that area, not someone that was able to outspend in an information environment that we know can't the truth can't chase lies. And we know that. We're living in that world right now. We want as a goal an earnest representative from that district. And so I think even in a capitalist society where there's certainly many, many ways that you can express your freedom and grow your company and grow your power, that we want as a democratic goal to have the most equitable process in which people are able to share their ideas and then have someone come out of that, not because of innate special relationships, but because of their popularity within their district or area.
I love you, brother, and I want to
Is that a
hand you
goal?
up.
Is
No,
that your goal?
fuck. No, fuck no. I want to hand you a bouquet of flowers right now and kiss you, because that's like never land, my friend. Again, I think, okay, so you've in your world, let's say you got two
Yes.
people run for Congress. They can only get money from people in their district.
Yes.
In your world, neither one of them can give their own campaigns money in their district. Um,
Or
hey,
restricted to a reasonable amount. Yeah.
whatever.
There is
Okay,
actually another time. Yeah.
I think, like, just logistically, this is pie in the sky impossible, but I also think it's wrong. But I think it'd
It,
be impossible to enforce. But
I
even
just
Xander,
enforcement.
but
Yeah.
oh, I think it'd be impossible, because again, just go back to the whole notion of we are a country full of PACs. PACs are national organizations, and they all have state groups too. Xander, you give money to your Democratic Socialist Club of America and your gun club of America, that money you give is being used by the national group to give money to candidates around the country who reflect what you believe in. So you'd have to enforce all of that. But let's say you get to your dream world. It's like the voters have to decide who's the best. How, like, you want the best candidate that best reflects the voters in that district. Well, hello, that's what elections right now are all about. And that's why we have elections every 2 years in the House. And if you're not reflecting the will of the people in that district, we're fucking going to vote you out of office. And I acknowledge, Xander, there are some problems with campaign finance right now that make that harder. Uh, but oh, by golly, I don't think we can ever get to your dream world, and I don't think we should, because
Mhm.
I think it limits individual freedom. What if the two candidates in your district, according to your rules, what if one of them it just is kick-ass and raises 20 times what the other candidate raises in that district? And let's
In
say
the
that
district?
all in the district, and they can't give themselves campaign money. It's all in district, and one guy who's the bad candidate, who's kind of a bullshitter, but because he's a bullshitter, he's a great hustler, and he raises 10 times what the other good, decent candidate raises. Are you going to try to do something about that imbalance? Like they should each raise and spend the exact same amount of money?
That's
I, I'm
is an interesting point. I hadn't thought that much. I do think the fundraise, if it's capped at a certain individual amount, is almost a nice prerequisite. To it shows a certain level of popularity. If you can raise, you call it, you're capped at $50, a person. Um, I think the scenario you're talking about, we're in a much worse scenario now than we would be in that case. I think maybe you can outraise your competition by 10x. I think that probably points to, especially if you're appealing to $50, probably points to that you're hitting some nerve and you're at least aware of the needs of your people and you're good at getting out there and you're good at communicating, which is
And or you're good at spreading bullshit. Like, we got to keep brown and black people out of our district, guys. Brown and black people are bad. Oh my God, let's give him money. I mean, even
but
under your scenario,
yeah, yeah.
we will still elect bad bullshitters from in district.
That's probably true. That's probably true. We would like some bad bullshitters, but I think the likelihood that system would produce more bad actors than someone who can pull in APAC money, or XYZ corporation money from the jump and have a 50x lead on their competition in district and be able to get the word out that much easier, get in front of people that much easier, and they create name ID, et cetera. I think the world we're currently living in supports
Do,
that person a
do you
lot more
probably
than
you'd probably like public financing of campaigns?
I don't know. I don't know how much I love that there's this huge industry that is campaigns in general. To be honest, I haven't thought enough about, like, I'm probably only thinking one standard deviation of where away from how we are today, right? Not two or three, which is
Oh,
there's a
Xander,
world
this
where
is great
there's
stuff.
yeah, I mean, talk to me. There's a world where it's like it's totally different. Look, there's a set amount of town halls you go to as a candidate. That's the only thing you do. They're all across your district, and like that's the beginning and the end of running. You don't run TV ads. You're not allowed to spend any money. I haven't thought creatively enough about that world, to be honest. I've more thought about just like how do I make sure that when someone runs in whatever race they're running in, it is somewhat equitable in how they're able to raise money and how they're able to get the word out about themselves. And to your point, when there's a vote, I just think it's a little bit naive. And just tell me why it's not naive. It's a little bit naive to say, look, we can just let a vote be a vote, even if someone's got 50x the amount of corporate dollars that has no connection to the best interest of the people of Illinois because it's Monsanto and they want to make sure that what's the stuff in Roundup that just came back?
Yeah,
Glyphosate.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that like the farmers have to keep using their glyphosate product and whatnot. But now this guy's got these inspiring ads by this incredible production team, and everyone's heard of him. And it's, like the everyday person, as I mentioned earlier, is just kind of struggling to figure out what's going on. But this guy now, becomes the nominee in the party that they're affiliated with because of that. I just think there's got to be, even when you look at just, there's a world where you go, look, even if there's a vote, the influence of Monsanto in that race is so incredible that it kind of compromises if it really truly was an equitable race. It was an equitable kind of opportunity for voters to understand who was really best for them.
And my answer to that, Xander, is, and it's great stuff, and I love the fact that you're thinking out loud like this, even though we profoundly disagree. This is great stuff. My answer to that is there was a day and age when there didn't used to be PACs. And then there was a day and age when there didn't used to be these things called super PACs. It used to be in America that an individual who loved a candidate, there were no limits on what that individual could contribute to that candidate. Then we as a country decided, oh, that's bad, because some really rich dude might have undue influence on a congressman. So we're going to limit what individuals can give to members. And that reform that
When was
happened in
that?
the early mid 70s,
Okay.
when we put in contribution limits from
Yeah.
individuals, that reform then created the thing we call PACs. Well, okay, then wealthy dudes going to get together with other wealthy dudes. They're going to form this outside organization, and the outside organization having nothing to do with the campaign. They're just going to support the candidate and do their own TV ads and their own mail and their own whatever. And then we tried to limit what they do. And then about 15 years ago, these things called super PACs formed. So every time we try to limit what somebody or something can give, the money finds another source. And oh, by the way, Xander, I would just say, last thing I'll say, and then I'll give you the final
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of these reforms, with the best of intentions, have helped wealthy candidates, because
Yeah.
wealthy candidates
Wealthy as well.
can still write their own check. So a schlub like me had to go everywhere and knock on doors to get money. Boom, ba boom, ba boom, $1,000 at a time.
Right.
It, and when you look at the data, more wealthy self-funders have been elected in the last 20 to 30 years than ever before, because we've made it hard for little guys like me to raise money,
That's
even with
interesting.
the best of intentions. But I'll
I
get
don't.
your general thesis, your general concern is spot on. There's too much corporate influence over our elections. Hell, there's too much corporate influence over our elected officials once they're in office.
Mhm.
Completely agree. What is interesting about these conversations is we're trying to figure out solutions to that involve government and don't.
Yeah, I think there's like a couple things you touched on there. One, I don't think the answer to, well, they found other ways to be corrupt or more
Uh,
impactful than they should be on our
well,
system to be,
corrupt,
let's not go figure that.
corrupt,
Corrupt maybe is
corrupt,
not a fair.
corrupted. No. That would be your word.
Yeah,
Corrupt's not my word. But go
yeah, yeah.
ahead.
They found a way, after legislation was passed, they found a way to be more influential than other citizens on elections, I should say.
You're so funny. I love you because this is coming from your heart. No, they found another way to support a candidate they want to support. Period. And
Yeah, but if
look,
they have billions of dollars, then they're going to be more influential than mom and pop, around the corner in that same
right?
district.
You know what it's like, Sandra. To me, it's like we all agree there's maybe a baseline of funding that every child should receive in a public school.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine if you all want to decide that we should spend $15,000 per kid on our public schools, no matter what, no matter where they live. Fine. But in a free society, you're going to have wealthier people who want to spend more than that on their kids and start a private school where they spend 30 grand on their kids. I don't want to stop that. I don't think you do.
I it's interesting. I
So
mean, we can. I agree. Let me find the common ground. I agree that there's lots of things that require less intensity around fairness than democracy. I feel like there's a first order of fairness that we should obsess over when it comes to our democracy and how we elect people. And then there's a sliding scale of different systems and how much we should be involved in the outcomes there. I also agree that, the thing that like, it's almost not even worth talking about that I feel strongly about is I think there should be a wealth cap because no matter what you do with election reform, I think someone can have such an overwhelming, you look at Elon Musk buying Twitter and changing the algorithm. Like there's a certain level of coercion that you can create just from the totality of your wealth. But I want to take a step back. I think in a dynamic democracy, and you see this in a lot of places in Europe, like social media is a good example, right? Social media came out and America has basically gone Section 230. We can't do anything about it. We can never legislate this. It's hurting. We know it's fucking up the truth. We know it's fucking up our political system. We know kids are committing suicide because of what they're seeing on there, but we're not going to do anything. And you've seen Europe, which is a lot more dynamic. Their systems are a lot more dynamic, adopt a lot of legislation to mitigate those harms and change how things work. So I don't know if I agree with the premise of there was a type of influence happening that we deemed not appropriate, right? The amount of money an individual could give. We passed a law there, but because they thought of another way, we should just not try to legislate that space. We should not try to continue to realize this fair system that is aspirational to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, the difference between us and most European countries on these questions is we've always valued individual freedom more in this country. And you see it even in issues like hate speech in many European countries is a fucking
Yeah.
crime. Right. So we have
Negative
different.
freedom. America has been way stronger on negative freedom, meaning you
Yeah.
can't tell you can't
Yeah.
you can't tell someone what to do.
It's
Basically,
it's
that's
so
like an
cute.
overall.
And what's really cute is you and I typically always find our way back to this issue of freedom, negative
Yeah,
freedom
yeah.
versus positive freedom. And your heart and your soul leans more toward positive freedom. My heart and soul lean more toward negative freedom. But that forms a lot of the basis of these conversations we have that I thoroughly enjoy, that I've got to hop off of in 20
Oh man!
seconds.
All right, shit. That
But
went
no,
by
no,
so fast.
Xander, this is so fucking cool, though. I'll give you the final word. Have we
Yeah,
found? Have we found? Forget common ground on this one. Have we gained understanding? What have we
100.
done?
Look, like it. I actually am like less. I think you and I both probably are pretty clear on our ideology. I'm less concerned on if I can organize you into my thinking. I just want to get it more as like part of this. I just really want to understand how you take those things on. And the other thing that came up that we almost pushed aside that I think as a practice we should spend more time on is we do both agree on transparency. Whether or not we agree on wealth cap or campaign max donations or whatnot, we did agree on that. And if you and I think the one of the beliefs you and I have is if we can find areas we agree, it's probably a good sign there's not a lot of defenders of, of that practice. Like that America as a governing body, federal government, states, whatever, should lean in and try to pass something yesterday on transparency. Who the fuck is benefiting? If you can't see the benefit in it, and I can't see the benefit in it, then what are we doing, allowing that to, exist in
Agreed.
our society?
Agreed.
So I
Agreed.
certainly think we've come away with, between the electoral college, expand the House, and a lot more transparency in our elected system, three priorities on corruption that we, both could, circle the wagons on and organize our sides
Agreed.
on.
And agreed. And my final thought is politicians on both sides have an inherent interest not to be transparent about where their money's coming from. So that system needs to fucking be blown up. Final thing I'm going to say is these are such wonderful conversations. Everybody make sure you follow and subscribe to Xander. Follow and subscribe to defiance.org. They're doing such great fucking work out there.
Hey, you big
And
guy,
if
if you call name your own things. I'm bringing some people to the table. It's a smaller
you
audience, so I'm bringing some people.
no, yes,
Joe, where
yes,
can they
you are.
find you?
Yes, feel free to follow and subscribe to me. This is great stuff. Thank you, Xander.
All right, brother. It's so nice to talk to you. Bye bye again.
Thanks, everybody.